Scott, you're good to go.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight's guest speaker, who was here last month's presentation, is Tim Fico with Duct Diagnostics. Tonight he's going to go over air sealing. And last month he went over duct cleaning. So it's all yours, Tim. Take it away.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, a couple weeks ago we talked about duct cleaning. Who here has heard about AeroSeal duct sealing?
Tim, if you could talk a little closer into your microphone.
Oh. Hello, can you hear me?
Sound
perfect.
Good. Wait, all right, good. So I think one, maybe two of you raised your hands. So AeroSeal duct sealing is a way to seal ducts. Typically, when ducts are installed, they're what's called slip and drive joints. Essentially, you have two duct sections that are put together. There's a metal drive that holds them together, and that's it. There's tremendous amounts of leakage. The Department of Energy says that on average, unsealed ducts leak between 25 to 40% of their air. And at least in my experience, I've found that to be pretty darn true. They leak like crazy. So AeroSeal was something that was invented that seals the ducts from the inside, and it seals 95% of that leakage. It's actually a really cool process. So that's AeroSeal in a nutshell. So today we will go over duct leakage, why AeroSeal is needed. We can go over the whole process, the benefits to your customers, and AeroSeal dealers, pretty much me, to support you guys. So, duct leakage, this is in some older data. 89 million homes have ducts in them. I mean, I guess to start with the basics, I'm assuming you guys all know what a duct system is and what it's designed to do, correct?
Yeah.
So duct system, it's meant to take air from the furnace or the air handler. It's meant to either A, push warm air to a room, or B, take humid air from a room. Air conditioning, heat, those are its two things. So when a duct system leaks between 20 to 40%, you're not getting the optimal results from that air system. While the furnace, you get a 95% furnace, you buy a Cadillac. Well, if the air system is a piece of crap, you're not getting that full energy efficiency. Obviously, newer and older homes affected. Older homes more so. Newer homes, starting in 2015, they started going nuts with these energy efficiency codes. I don't know if anybody is familiar with those. Anybody keep up with the codes? The new duct tightness codes that are coming into effect already came into effect and are nuts. So yeah, older homes, unsealed ducts. Newer homes, a lot of companies are turning to AeroSeal to help. Ton of energy. I know AeroSeal Corp pushes the whole global warming thing. Obviously, your gas furnace runs less greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And the big well, there it is at the end. Homes 25% consumed. Your biggest bang for your buck is your heating and air conditioning equipment. So you'll see in the slides to come, that's why AeroSeal, that's literally why it was invented. So duct, sorry, I'm reading this because it's been a while since I looked at this slide. So duct sealing with regards to the EPA comfort. Whenever any homeowner calls you and says that they're uncomfortable in their home, 90+% of the time, it has to do with humidity. Does anybody know? So, what's the purpose of air conditioning? Does anybody know?
To remove the humidity.
Remove moisture.
Beautiful. Yes. So 90+% of the time when you get, and maybe you guys don't get these calls, but I get them frequently. People say they're uncomfortable in the house. Most of the time it's a humidity issue. Either the returns are leaking or there's not enough returns. Health. Anybody familiar with what's called the Venturi effect? So the Venturi effect. So imagine a supply duct, but on the seams, it has gaps. So you would think the supply duct, while it's positively pressured and air is escaping that because of the positive pressure, it's also putting the immediate space around all those gaps under a negative, and it's drawing debris actually in to that supply duct, even though it's under positive pressure. That's called the Venturi effect. So AeroSeal, not only is it good duct sealing AeroSeal, not only is it good for energy efficiency, also health in the house. You have a supply chase running in between sheetrock to serve as second floor registers. Well, inevitably that natural duct leakage, if not sealed properly, is pulling in potentially fiberglass through the Venturi effect. Safety, reduce risk of carbon monoxide, entering the home through ventilation system, more or less. So that's more referring to positive and negative pressures. If your return side is leaking more than your supply side, anybody hear the term CAS room? CAS. So CAS stands for combustion appliance zone, essentially your mechanical room. So where the combustion happens, where your heat happens, if that CAS room is under negative pressure, you could backdraft the chimney. So that's what the safety is related to. In terms of duct leakage, if you do a great job sealing your supply, but not a great job sealing your return side, you could put your basement under negative pressure and backdraft carbon monoxide. Savings, that's a no-brainer. Obviously, if your ducts are leaking 25 to 40%, you seal your ducts. Now you're going to push the air where you want it to go. And the environment, what I touched on, greenhouse gases, etc. Any questions on that? Department of Energy, they did a buttload of testing. And again, from what I'm learning, this slide is old, but from the stuff that they push out, it's only worse than that. And in my experience, I would even agree when I do duct testing. Duct systems lose on average between 25 and 40% of their heating and cooling. The cost to seal and insulate the ducts, it's got an incredible ROI, which I believe there's a slide in here, the McKinsey chart we'll get to soon. Only half a typical loss on ducts were saved. It would amount to yeah, that all comes energy efficiency. There's actually anybody familiar, at least in Connecticut, not Massachusetts. In Connecticut, they have an energy program called HESS, Home Energy Solutions. Is anybody familiar with that? Okay. Yeah. So to those of you who are not familiar with it, it's a program run by the utilities. Essentially, you'll pay 50 or 75 bucks, and for you guys and for your homeowners, literally everybody should do this because it'll cost you 50 or 75 bucks. And a company will come in and do about 4 hours worth of legit energy work to your house. To kind of explain how the program works, do you guys know what a blower door test is?
Yeah.
Like a pressure test.
It's a pressure test on the envelope of the house. Correct. So what'll happen in this Hess visit is you pay 50 or 75 bucks. The Hess company comes in and they'll spend 4 hours worth of work at your house. One of the tests they're going to do is called a blower door test. They pressurize your house and they'll get a reading of leakage in the envelope of your house. So let's call it 600 CFM of leakage in the envelope of your house. So they'll go around and a beautiful example is, let's say, the plumbing from your kitchen going down to an unfinished basement. They drill the holes in the to bring the plumbing down to the unfinished basement. And, you know, you got a 1/4 inch copper tube that goes down. The hole down to the basement is a full inch. That's a whole gap, right? So the leakage on your house, the envelope of your house is 600 CFM. They seal that around the plumbing. So now your house, the leakage on your house drops from 600 to 575. The way the program works is they get paid directly from the utilities that 25 CFM that they saved you. So that's how that program works. So if anybody's not done a Hess audit, I'll strongly recommend you do that. Currently, right now, because they've realized AeroSeal is a tremendous bang for your buck, is they're now offering $1,750 rebate off of AeroSeal duct sealing. So in terms of AeroSeal, that's the benefit for it. Everybody should do the Hess audit because you get that testing done on your house, 4 hours worth of work for $50 to 75 bucks. You should tell that to all your customers. We're not even a Hess company, so I benefit nothing from that. But to get back to the slide, that's kind of the power of duct leakage and duct sealing, how it can affect your house in a nutshell.
Now, Tim, because
Yeah.
I couldn't do it on mine. Now I probably can because of asbestos. So if you're out,
Correct. They won't do the blower door on the asbestos. Yes.
and usually they'll look around to see in the age of the house, et cetera, et cetera. But I probably could do it now because everything is pretty much either abandoned or ripped. I ripped it all out. So at the time I couldn't do it.
Everybody, I tell this to all of our customers, and our company personally probably lose money on this, but 50, 75 bucks, everybody should do it. It's just, and literally they give you a whole, on the air sealing they'll tell you, like, this is the return on investment for the work that we did this day. And most of the time it's under 6 months, the work that they do. So that's something we do as a company. We tell all of our customers, just pointing them in the right direction, 50, 75 bucks, get on before the program ends, do the Hess audit, take advantage of the rebates. They used to be a lot more fun. People used to get rebates off of washers and dryers. They used to change light bulbs to LED lights. The program used to be insane. They used to give the stuff away, but it's changed a lot since then. So before they change it, get more strict. Tell all your customers in Connecticut. I see in Massachusetts they have similar programs, Rhode Island, New Jersey. But yeah, in Connecticut, they're constantly changing it. So if you're in Connecticut, definitely do it. So anyways, back to AeroSeal, and not only AeroSeal, duct sealing in general. That's the whole point, is even the utilities see that duct leakage is a huge problem and should be addressed. This is the McKinsey chart I was telling you about. So the McKinsey chart just shows, in terms of duct leakage, sealing your ducts, it's the biggest bang for your buck.
I'm just gonna use my house for example. My house is I mean, obviously it's insulated now. I completely renovated the first floor, right? And then I blew insulation because it's balloon construction up in the outer wall. So I'd say my house is maybe a little spot on the staircase over here. It's insulated, and with all the ducts, even though I went back and forth, I insulated the ducts. Every duct's taped, insulated, and I'm telling you what a difference as far as heating, the cost of heating, how much warmer, more comfortable it is, and the ducts don't leak. Everything's tight in the wall, above the ceiling. So
Absolutely. Yeah, and all your
Um,
ducts, I remember they were in a mechanical room in the basement. Everybody says the basement, that's their most, that's the coolest part of their house. Well,
right.
inevitably is going to be, but not to the extent that most of the time it is. They're properly insulated, properly sealed. So, absolutely. And you went with round oval ducts, which even that, granted, splitting hairs, but the way air moves in a circular motion, I don't understand it, but rectangular ducts are what's mostly installed. It's not the most efficient duct. Round duct is the most efficient duct.
Right.
So you did the oval duct, perfect. That's how it should be. Air travels in little circles in an HVAC system. So absolutely. Anybody have any questions on what we did so far? Good to go?
Good to go.
Beautiful. This is the McKinsey chart. Cost to a homeowner, mine and your typical customers. Sealing ducts, biggest bang for your buck. Yeah. AeroSeal process. And this is, again, if you guys ever want to, it's a much more fun process to see in person than see on a PowerPoint presentation. But if you guys ever want to do something at our office, the people who can make it there, the people who can't, we can Zoom them in or whatever we got to do. It really is a cool process. You literally watch the ducts seal in real time. This is the older equipment, the generation 2. Now there's 2 pieces of equipment. I think you can see my mouse. No, you have the heaters, which is closer to the duct, and then you have the fan box. Now it's just one fan box that's there. AeroSeal invented in 1994. This is all old slides. Now it's way past what these slides are showing. The president of AeroSeal, Amit Gupta, actually had a meeting a few weeks ago with Saudi Arabia. And now AeroSeal is getting into there because they've acknowledged duct leakage. And now they're going nuts over in Saudi Arabia with air duct leakage. So all these slides are very minuscule and old compared to how big an issue duct leakage really is.
And real quick, there was a question, and I said just Connecticut. You guys just work in Connecticut, but you have people that do duct sealing all over the United States, right? Every state, pretty much.
Well, so we are an AeroSeal dealer, correct? So AeroSeal, they don't call it a franchise, but I guess we bought into the franchise. So yes, AeroSeal Corp is worldwide. So yeah, New Jersey, there's companies in New Jersey, et cetera, et cetera. We are only in Connecticut. We do borders of New York when it's referred. Obviously, the farther we have to travel, the more we have to charge. But there's AeroSeal dealers everywhere now, including Saudi Arabia now within these last weeks. But yeah, so AeroSeal Corp, they're out of Ohio, and yeah, we are a franchisee of them. Our company, we're located in Milford, Connecticut. Good to go?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So AeroSeal Technology, it was bought by Carrier in the late 1990s. Mark Modera. I actually met the guy, cool guy. His son's a typical California surfer bro. Carrier owned it in 2011. It was bought back from Carrier by the JMD Corp. Carrier wasn't doing anything with it. They just let it sit in a warehouse. So when the JMD Corp bought it, they started installing it everywhere. Now it has applications in hospitals. It has approval in hospitals. Our little family company, we actually aerosealed in the West Haven VA surgical suites. When the polymer cures, it emits 0 VOCs. It's been in all these fun places. It's a process that seals ducts from the inside. Again, while we're sealing ducts, you're literally watching the duct seal in real time. Who's familiar with a duct blaster test? So a duct blaster test, it reads duct leakage. So the aeroseal process does the exact same thing. The first step to the aeroseal process is we hook up to the duct system. We do literally a duct leakage test. Then we section off the supply side of the system and perform another duct leakage test. So we know the supply side is leaking, call it 200, 250 CFMs of leakage. Now, as we introduce the aerosolized polymer into that pressurized supply duct, as the polymer escapes out the slip and drive joints, the undesirable gaps, the polymer coagulates, builds pressure in the duct, and that's how you get your reading. And you literally watch the duct seal in real time. You're literally watching the numbers go down. You're watching the graph go down. It puts on one hell of a show. We actually like it when the customers watch the ducts, if they're comfortable, watch the ducts seal. So AeroSeal was invented back in the 90s. Before AeroSeal, the way to seal was manually sealing ducts on the outside. Who's familiar with mastic, and has anybody used it before?
You see it all the time in a lot of houses, even now. Some people are still doing it too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the old way of sealing ducts was to install metal ducts, slip and drive joints. And then what they would do is they would paint a mastic on all the joints. They would have to wait for it to dry, and then they would go back and insulate the ducts. Not anymore, because in those days, you figure basement ducts, the ductwork is pressed up against the ceiling. There's no way for them to manually seal the top of those ducts. Best case scenario, they're going to seal 30 to 40%. With AeroSeal, because we're sealing from the inside, we can get 95% of that leakage. And especially with new codes, which I believe we'll touch on later, it's just not feasible. We also do duct testing, not just AeroSeal. And with these new codes that came into play, I've only had a handful of contractors even pass them. They're just insane without AeroSeal. Any questions on AeroSeal versus the new way of sealing, the old way of sealing ducts versus AeroSeal? Anything?
No, sir.
Sweet. So back to the process. Block supply registers and returns. In this picture, they're just doing a normal duct blast test, taping over the face of the registers. This is the laptop. You see in the picture on the left, that's a faulty picture. So that's not the pre-test. That's the graph that you literally see the duct sealing in real time. Well, you can't really see it, but that's probably like 15 to 20 minutes worth of sealing. And you see the graph just going in a downward trajectory. So that's what you literally see while you're sealing the ducts. Just the graph go down, and that means pressure's building in the duct, which means the ducts are inevitably being sealed. But with regards to this presentation, they're still on the pre-test. So they put tape over all the supply and return registers. They get the pre-test. They get their number of pre-leakage. So that's the normal duct press. That's the normal duct test at 25 pascals, which is 0.1 inch of water column. Now, to prep for AeroSeal, what we actually have to do is take these foam blocks and cut them to size. So that way they can snugly fit in each diffuser, each return and supply register. We take another foam block and we protect the air handler or the furnace. That's what on the left, he cut a big hole. He's got to jam that in and make it airtight because you don't want any of the polymer to go into the furnace, into the coil. So you're essentially sectioning off the supply and return ductwork. And this is the magic. So the top left, the photo, is the AeroSeal equipment hooked up to the supply side of the duct system. The lower left is just a picture of the AeroSeal equipment. The bottom middle and the bottom right is the polymer after it's sealed. So you'll notice it doesn't line the inside of the duct system. The pressure and the flow during the sealing of the process keeps the polymer suspended, and it only sticks when it tries to squeeze out a slip and drive joint, a gap that's not supposed to be there. So the bottom, middle, lower right, that's the actual polymer. And then in the upper right, you'll see the screen that we see while we're sealing. So the left axis, I think I'm using the terminology correct. The left axis of the graph shows CFM of leakage. It looks like it started at, what is that, almost 400 CFM of leakage. It's a little blurry. And the bottom axis, the y-axis, it shows minutes of sealing time in 5 minute, or I don't know what increments that is. As you seal longer, it changes. But it looks like it went to about 25 minutes of seal time. And they sealed almost 400 CFM of leakage. So that's the AeroSeal process in a nutshell. Any questions on this process? After the sealing process is done, obviously, do a post test. You get your before and after numbers, and the AeroSeal, remove the blocks. So this is what you get when you're done. So the newer AeroSeal equipment doesn't have a printer. On the left, you see there's a little small printer. We used to have the ability to print these certificates on the right and hand them to a customer. But those results on the right, for the most part, are pretty accurate. Who here knows what a CFM is?
Cubic feet per minute.
Yes. So cubic feet per minute, CFM. So on average, what we see per hookup, so this is supply and return, we see anywhere between 100 and 150 CFM per leakage up to about 400 CFM per leakage. And that's each. So if you figure you're hooking up to a return side and you're at 200 CFM of leakage, then you hook up to a supply side and you're at 300 CFM per leakage. You add those two together, you're at 500 CFM of leakage total. That's just air leakage that's behind walls in a crawl space, up in an attic. We save that customer that's over. So rewind. Does anybody know what 1 ton of air is? How many CFM are in 1 ton of air? So you hear a 3-ton air conditioning unit was put in. How many CFM are in 1 ton of air? So, rule of thumb, have you heard of the term ton? Like, oh, it's a 2-ton system. It's a 3-ton system. So, rule of thumb, there's 400 CFM per ton. So, say you have a 3-ton system, that's 1,200 CFM, right? 400 CFM times 3 tons. So that's 12 in a 3-ton system, rule of thumb, on average, 1,200 CFMs that system should be pushing. So in my experience, return leaking 200 CFM, supply leaking 300 CFM, 500 CFM. That's almost 50% leakage. And that's typical of what we see. Those are huge numbers. So again, going back to the Hess audit, whenever you guys inspect a house, if you see duct work where the ducts don't have any mastic or any tape on them, it's safe to say you're leaking between 25 and 40%. You can refer them to us. That's great. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, has this house had a Hess audit yet? The Home Energy Solutions audit we talked about earlier, $50 to $75. They'll get that testing done for them. And that Hess company, for that $50 or $75, is going to tell them your ducts are leaking this amount. And if they apply for the rebate, or if they're applicable to get the rebate, then they can get a significant amount of money off for the AeroSeal. So we're not talking little numbers. We're talking huge numbers. When I say 25 to 40% leakage, it's legitimate. Ducts are leaking incredibly. And the Venturi effect, it's all legitimate stuff. But that kind of puts it into perspective.
Hey, Tim.
Yeah.
The ductwork running through a garage, if you use the AeroSeal technology with that ductwork running through the garage, is that AeroSeal going to stop carbon monoxide? Is it fire resistant?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. So not necessarily fire resistant, but yes, when we seal those ducts through the garage, it's going to be sealed. Carbon monoxide won't get in there. Now, with regards to like fire code and
that's up to the town.
That's up to the town. But yeah, I mean, you got to figure if there's ducts that are leaking and we seal them, nothing's going to get in there because they're sealed. How would it? Right?
Right.
Let me see if I can play this quick video.
Tim, there's a quick question before you hit that. Is there any test on polymer material?
What kind of testing you do? I have a boatload of information. I have a whole folder that I call AeroSeal Shenanigans. If you need anything, I have a
That was just a
boatload of
question from one of our members, and I'm not sure if he means, a test to see if it's a health test. Okay, that's all right. Is there any issues as far as health wise?
No. So our company has sealed in hospitals. It's been in hospitals all over the place. When the polymer cures, it emits no VOCs. So while we're sealing, yeah, we want the house to ourselves when we can, because we have to set the house under environmental controls to protect the home. But once the sealing is done and it's cured, it emits no VOCs in the airstream.
So when you say the homeowner's watching it, was it from a laptop outside the house somewhere?
We have some homeowners who are cowboys. They put a mask on and they know the AeroSeal process and they just want to be there. And we're cool with that. But for the most part, when you're sealing, this video won't show it. So essentially, in order for the polymer to seal the duct, it has to escape the duct. So while we're sealing, there will be polymer floating in the ambient air. So I'll give you an example, an unfinished basement. All the duct work is in an unfinished basement. While we're sealing, that basement is going to get foggy. There's going to be polymer in that basement. So our job as the AeroSeal franchisee, the dealer, our job is to set that basement under environmental controls so we protect the house. We protect the homeowner's belongings, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why essentially when we seal, we like the house to ourselves, so a homeowner's not freaking out. But we have homeowners they want to be right there. They know the process, they've seen the videos, and they want to be right there. And at least our company's policy is, as long as the homeowner understands what's going on, sure, it puts on one hell of a show. If you're there and you're watching the duct seal, and we start at 300 CFM leakage. To give you another idea of what a CFM is, so 1 cubic foot is essentially the size of a basketball. So when we see numbers of 300 CFM, that means every minute their system is running, they're losing 300 basketballs of air in an unfinished basement. So those are big numbers. So customers who have did the research and they understand AeroSeal and they just want to see the process, we give them a mask. They're right down there in the basement with us, and they're just watching their duct seal in real time. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Sweet. So this is just a cute little video they sent us to show people. Oh, hold on. So this is a duct system. They just cut a hole in and they screw in a plastic thing just so you can see the inside. They drilled a bunch of holes in it. So this test is literally what we have in our office. So if you guys do take me up on my offer and ever want to see this process in real life, we took a duct section just like this, we drilled holes in it, and we seal it.
No sound.
No, it's just a video.
I mean, that's very simplified the process. Any questions?
Impressive.
Sweet. Frequently asked questions. How long will it last? Guaranteed for 10 years, tested to 40. They actually did this expedited testing on it where they took it, they sealed the duct system, they heated it, they cooled it, they expanded it, contracted it. And they were able to, what do you call it? They were able to take that data and extrapolate. So it is tested to 40 years based on that testing that they told us. Is the sealant. The main component in the sealant is non-toxic, and there's no OSHA exposure limit for it. It's actually used in baby. Oh, all right. It's right there. Yeah. It's used in water-based paints, hairspray, chewing gum, and babies' pacifiers as well. VOCs, extremely low VOCs. The primary component has no OSHA exposure limit. If anybody's familiar with OSHA, they take everything to the extreme. So the fact that they said that really means a lot. Drying time. So the entire AeroSeal process is all of breakdown and setup of all of the equipment and prepping the air system. So when they say less than 2 hours by the time the breakdown of the equipment is complete, they literally mean that. By the time we're done breaking down all of our equipment, we turn the system on, and maybe for 10 minutes after there's a smell. Beyond that, we've had the most customers with the most sensitive smell issues that have not called and complained or anything. So yeah, it literally takes an hour to an hour and a half to cure. Oh, will my house smell? Elmer's glue. If you're hungry, it smells like coleslaw. But by next morning, at least in our experience, we turn the unit on. Before we leave, there's no smell. And that's even with the customers with the most crazy smell issues. They said that it hasn't smelled anything. That's in our experience. Should I be in the house? Like I mentioned, we prefer being in the house alone. Again, we have our cowboy customers who know about the process, who have done their research, and at least our little company policy, we like to party. If you want to come check out the process, it puts on one hell of a show. More than happy. Come on in, check out what it's all about. Pregnant women, pets, we recommend they leave. AeroSeal will seal up to 5/8 of an inch gap. The bigger the gap, the exponentially longer it takes to seal. So a 5/8 inch gap will take about 40 minutes to seal. And that's a big gap. That's a little over a half an inch. So that's a huge gap.
How long do people expect to be out of the house? The whole day, Tim?
No. So in the morning, great question. So in the morning, there's probably a couple of hours of prep work. Then sealing takes tops 2 hours. A system that seals with no issues, it could take 20 to 30 minutes. And then usually what happens when we do it is the homeowner gives my foreman their phone number. We seal when we're wrapping up or flushing the equipment. We'll just text the homeowner. We're done. Come back home. We show them everything we did. But no, usually at most, crazy jobs where we find disconnects and we got to cut into sheetrock to make repairs, 3 hours. But for the most part,
do you ever show up to a job and someone's already spray foamed the outside of the joints of the ductwork? I've seen that a lot lately.
Right, that's the old Connecticut basement systems, the old Larry Janeski. Yes, so they've patented the product.
They do electrical junction boxes too?
What's up?
I said, do they do all the electrical junction boxes while they're at it? They spray them over?
So their whole thing, and they patented it and everything. And I'm a fan of it because the spray foam insulation is phenomenal. It also acts as an air sealer as well. So as long as you have beautiful access to the ducts and there's not insulation already on them, I've referred their product as well. It's phenomenal. You just have to have that access. The issue with that spray foam is when you go to clean it, that's where we get screwed because now we got to cut into their spray foam. We got to buy that expanding spray foam, which isn't exactly the same as their stuff, but I don't know the difference between it, but that was how they taught us to seal their spray foam. But yes, I have seen that before, and we have come up.
I don't think they're doing it anymore, Tim, right? I think they stopped doing spray foam altogether. They were doing, I think after the fire. No, I don't think they do it anymore.
Rescue's fire. I mean, that would be news to me. As far as I know, they still do it. I couldn't tell you, but yeah, they yeah. As far as I know, they still do it. We still run across ducts that are spray foamed, and we tell homeowners we got to cut into it. We go to Depot, we grab the spray foaming. It's a great air sealer. I don't know if it has the same R value, but that was what they taught us to do with their spray foam. But yes, Jim, we do see that.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, so AeroSeal, it'll seal up to 5/8 of an inch gap, a little over a half an inch. Broken and disconnected ducts. Obviously, that's when you start getting to the 3-hour seal times. We're cutting into sheetrock, finding repairs because we're just fogging out a basement in the corner of a basement. So we follow the fog. We know there's the disconnect. Homeowner gives us permission, cut into the sheetrock, try to make the repair.
Do you, when you have some flex involved, like say you have somebody added flex, do you just disconnect that and block that off and then reconnect it?
Well, so no, all the flex. So if the flex is broken, then we got to repair it. But when we block those, we're blocking them at the diffuser. We're blocking them at the register's boot. So the AeroSeal polymer, if like say a mouse chewed through a flex, right? As long as the gap isn't larger than 5/8 of an inch, the polymer will seal that.
Okay.
Yeah. The issue comes when it's totally disconnected, like when the takeoff off the main is just broken. Then there's an issue. Then we got to find it and make a repair. But little tears, scratches, and flecks, as long as it's under 5/8 of an inch, over time the polymer is going to find it and seal it. So where does the sealant leaking from the ducts go to? This comes from slip and drive joints. In order for the polymer to seal, it actually has to escape out of those joints. So where does that? We call it overspray. So when the polymer escapes out the gaps, now it's in the ambient air. Where does it go? Well, we have the whole house set under environmental controls. That's why we perform initial consultations. We come up with a game plan to protect the homeowner's belongings. Most of the polymer settles behind wall cavities, in unfinished attics, in basements. We exhaust it, catch it in filters. Will it harm electronics? Finished basements with TVs. Those finished basements are the toughest obstacles we have to overcome. We cover TVs because the static electricity from the TVs will attract the polymer. So we protect them in plastic. We have our whole thing. That's the important part of why we do consultations before AeroSeals. HVAC accessories, we're trained. We protect everything, UV lights, ERVs, specialty filter racks. We're BPI trained. We know all that. HVAC accessories, and I say that, and then tomorrow I'm going to see something I've never seen before with all this new technology that's coming out. Here's a biggie. Do ducts need to be cleaned before sealing? So I will recommend everybody go home. If you have not taken advantage of the Hess audit, do it. Everybody should do it. The downside is a lot of those Hess companies have no problem aerosealing ducts before you clean them. Now, one of two things will happen if you seal ducts without cleaning them. Typically on a return side, where there's a heavier buildup of debris, because the return acts as a vacuum on the room. So if you have a room with carpet, just all that dust, typically returns have a heavy buildup of debris. The polymer will stick to it, gunk it all up, make it no longer cleanable. And typically on the supply side, where there's a lighter buildup of debris, polymer's not going to stick to anything, but it's going to increase duct pressure, static pressure, while the system's running, and it will increase flow. So that stuff that used to not be airborne will be airborne, and it will shoot out. And what we do whenever we have a customer that wants AeroSeal without duct cleaning first is when we're done sealing, we'll put a filter material over all of the supply diffusers. We use cheesecloth and we tape it to all the supply diffusers. So that way at the end of the day, when we kick that unit on, any debris that gets airborne, we're at least protecting the house. Most of it will get caught in that white cheesecloth. And inevitably, the homeowner sees the cheesecloth, they want their ducts clean anyways. So just if you do the Hess audit and you are applicable for AeroSeal, just my strong recommendation, please, please, please get your ducts cleaned before your AeroSeal, or you're going to have crud blowing out into your house. So we've actually disagreed with AeroSeal Corp on that. And that's our little test. And almost every time the cheesecloth discolors and the homeowner needs their ducts cleaned after we seal. And can I clean my ducts if they're sealed? We can clean them of loose dust and debris, but inevitably there will be a little bit of stuff that sticks to the bottom. From a duct cleaner's perspective, I'm not overly concerned about that little stuff, but yeah, we'll get them 95% cleaned. Oh, will the ducts be covered with glue? Very, very, very. You can't see it with your eye. You can only barely feel the bottom of the ducts if it's installed correctly. In terms of polymer being in the ducts. So super minimal. Consumer benefits, you get air quality. We talked about the Venturi effect, energy savings. That's the big one. Obviously, these energy codes for new installs, we can go all day on those. That's my specialty. I'm on a codes committee. These new codes are insane. HVAC companies, I've only had a handful of companies pass these new energy codes, which obviously alludes to even the government knows that duct leakage is a huge issue. Comfort benefits from balancing your system. If there's duct leakage, good luck maintaining pressure in your duct system. Good luck balancing your duct system. And then the air quality, obviously, Venturi effect, pulling in unwanted crud into your breathing air. Nobody wants that. This is the graph that we print. We can give to every customer. It just shows the duct sealing in real time. It doesn't always look that pretty, but peace of mind for the customer that their ducts are now sealed and they're not pulling in crud, energy savings, et cetera, et cetera. The other cool thing is it's immediate. When we're done, after we seal the ducts, the benefits are immediate. When we break down the equipment, turn the system on, from that point forward, their ducts are sealed and they can enjoy the benefits of having their ducts sealed. Local dealer information. That's just me. That's all I got for you guys.
Well, you did pretty good. What can we go over cost?
Yes. So ballparking. I mean, a lot of it depends on the environmental controls, meaning finished basements and finished third floors are a pain in the butt. But if you have an unfinished basement, you're going to be closer to around $2,000. If there's a finished basement, you're going to be upwards of $3,000. And keep in mind, with those numbers, this is how ridiculous the rebate is if they do the HES audit and they're applicable for the AeroSeal rebate, remember, the rebate is $1,750. So if they have a very straightforward AeroSeal job, they could get an AeroSeal for $500. If we're at $2,250 and the rebate's $1,750, so that's the insane part. That does not include the cleaning though, which I strongly recommend. But kind of food for thought. That's how nuts the rebate is. Call it $2,200 to $3,000 is like a ballpark range. If it's a finished basement, finished attic, or oiled fired furnace with the high air conditioning coil in the supply plenum, expect closer to $3,000. But if it's an electric heat pump, unfinished basement, that's very straightforward for us. They'll be closer to $2,200, and they have to do the HES audit first. But with the rebate, $1,750, just the utilities force those HES companies to be very specific with regards to doing that HES audit. So if you guide a customer to the HES audit, they should be taken care of. If they have any questions, I've fought with the utilities so many times, I can guide them in the right direction so they can make sure that they get the appropriate testing done and get everything done correctly.
Do you have a company you recommend for the HES audit?
God, I so do. But those HES companies are so far and few between. They're dealing with the utilities is similar to dealing with insurance.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys deal with that.
So you can get a HES audit through Eversource?
You can call Eversource. They'll give you to any company. Who I recommend is New England Smart Energy. They're out of Fairfield. They're a good company. I've only had positive experiences with them. And yes, and honestly, I don't even know if they refer us for AeroSeal, but at least in my experience with sending people to Hess companies and people doing the right tests, et cetera, in my experience, when a test wasn't done appropriately or a test needed to be done, their main guy would just go back and do it on his own time and take care of the customer. So New England Smart Energy, they're out of Fairfield, Connecticut. I like them a lot. That is who I send all of my people to.
So the process is you call them, they come out, do the test. Who offers the rebate?
They do.
They offer the rebate.
So you call New England Smart Energy, you say, hey, I want a Hess audit. They're going to say, all right, the price has changed, but it's going to get either $50 or $75. That's it. So they're going to get you on the schedule. They're going to come out and they're going to do 4 hours worth of energy work on your home. Now, with regards to AeroSeal, there's 2 prerequisite tests that have to be done. There's a true flow test, which just mandates there's enough return air passing through a coil. That's it. You need a minimum of 270 CFM per ton passing through that coil. Now, the reason that's important is because if you don't have at least that, and then we AeroSeal, we could be creating a worse issue. Make sense?
Yes.
So that's the true flow test. The second test actually tells you if AeroSeal is even worth it for you. So the second test is called a leakage to outside test. Do you guys know what? So leakage to outside test is a duct blast test in conjunction with a blower door test. So essentially, they pressurize your house to 25 pascals. Then they pressurize your duct system to 25 pascals. So the reading of leakage you're going to get on their manometer is only duct leakage outside of the thermal envelope of the house, crawl spaces, attics. So for example, if you have a finished basement, because that finished basement will be pressurized to the same leakage, to the same pressure the duct is, the reading of leakage on the manometer will not take that into account. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you have a minimum leakage of 250 CFM leakage to outside, those are the 2 things. 270 CFM per ton true flow to make sure you have enough return air, and 250 CFM leakage to outside. So you do the Hess audit. If you have those 2 things, AeroSeal is a no-brainer. And every day of the week, I would recommend that to a homeowner because you're going to pick up over a half a ton of air on AeroSeal and be safe knowing it. And it'll cost you $50 to $75 to know that information.
Now, Tim, you can't. Again, my house is fine, but if it had asbestos on the ducts, or you can't do that.
Correct. If you have
Can
asbestos,
you still AeroSeal?
what's up?
Can you still do the ducts? Can you still AeroSeal the ducts?
So yes. So the reason the Hess company can't do the Hess audit because of asbestos is because of the blower door. It's because they're going to pressurize the house. So a blower door test is 50 pascals. They pressurize the house, which per the government, per the utilities, may disturb asbestos because now you're pressurizing the asbestos. With regards to AeroSeal, we're pressurizing the inside of the duct, and we're going to essentially coat that asbestos because there's very little amount of it exposed to the airstream. The polymer, I won't say encapsulates it, but will seal that joint and essentially put that asbestos out of the airstream.
Do you lose the rebate because you can't have the Hess test?
So, yes, you do. You need to have the Hess test done to gain that rebate.
So, and then after we get the Hess test done, the customer would call you for the AeroSeal. Do you handle the rebate? Handle all that?
Yeah, we'll do it all. Yep. So
Okay.
what'll happen? The Hess company comes in. They confirm the duct system can be eligible for the rebate, and the Hess company will leave that customer with a piece of paper saying, "Yes, you're eligible for the rebate. You passed the tests." So now when we go to AeroSeal, we just have to fill out the AeroSeal portion of that paperwork, and then they
Okay.
will get the rebate. Yes.
Perfect. This will be good. We're gonna put
Now
your link up on
every year that changes. So that rebate, the 1750, is only for heating and air conditioning. For straight air conditioning, it's different. Last year the rebates were different. I anticipate next year the rebates are going to be even different again. Long story short, what I tell my customers, everybody should do the Hess audit. Everybody's $50 to $75. You get that information, do it. And if the rebates change next year, at least you have the tests, you have the results. Whatever happens next year, you can figure it out then. But at least this year, the rebates are so insane. Do the Hess audit. If it's applicable, you can get the rebate. Just do it, because if you get the rebate, that means your ducts are leaking enough for the utilities to acknowledge AeroSeal is an asset, and you get almost $2,000 off an AeroSeal. Absolutely do it.
Well, Tim, it's 8:00. Thank you so much for
Nice job, Tim.
Great job.
your 2 hours. This was really informative. I know it's going to help our customers out a lot, and that was great information. I'm going to post your website and your contact information up on our website so our inspectors can reference it if they need to.
Somebody mentioned Home Energy Solutions did the Hess audit for us. So Home Energy Solutions, that's the name of the program. That's Hess. So there is a contractor that performed that Hess audit. So I don't know who your Hess company was, but Hess is the program. That's not the company that did it. So find out the company who did it. If you like them, phenomenal. At least my experience, me and Smart Energy, that's who I refer my customers to.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Well,
Tim.
good.